Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Mackling Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing this 5th of December. And I'll be outlining some of the key aspects and transits taking place, along with that explaining the themes that are unfolding around us at this time. Before I do that, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control our lives. It merely gives us a framework to understand what is going on around us. It helps us to understand what kind of themes are unfolding and what kind of lessons are there for us to be learning, and where the opportunities for growth are at this particular time of the year. But for anything to actually change and for us to actually grow, we have to be taking action and we have to be engaging in the process. Can't just rely on it to happen automatically. We actually have to participate in order for events to manifest at the highest potential. Now, in terms of astrology for the week, I'll begin with the moon as usual. She begins in Scorpio, so this is a time where we may feel the need to just explore or understand our deeper motivations for doing things. We may also find old beliefs or old hurts come to the surface for us to heal. So we obviously need to let go and transform these elements so that they don't hold us back. On Thursday, the moon will move into Sagittarius. This is a time for exploring new ideas, seeking the truth, and coming up with new creative visions to try and manifest in the world. And in this time, so on Friday itself, we'll have the new moon in Sagittarius. So this will be an opportunity for us to set new intentions in this area. I'll go into a bit more detail in a bit. On Saturday, the moon enters Capricorn. So this is a time for kind of trying to manifest the ideas. It's also a time to take responsibility for how our lives are unfolding. And if we're not happy with the state of our lives, then it's up to us to change it. Then on Monday, the moon enters Aquarius, and it's a time for kind of taking a step back to reflect on what we've learned, reflect on the growth we've achieved, and to also see what is our role within our communities, how well do we fulfill our role, and how involved or how connected do we feel within our local community. Now, in terms of the other aspects this week, it's all primarily clumped together between the 6th of December, which is Thursday, up until Saturday the 8th. So the first event taking place is going to be Mercury's turning direct again. So whatever insights we've gained during the Mercury retrograde, especially around beliefs and where there are either gaps in our understanding or where we've got beliefs holding us back, but also with Mercury now in Scorpio, it's understanding our deeper motivations for doing things. Whatever we've learnt about our deeper motivations or or achieving deeper understanding of situations, now's the time to really start applying those principles or those new ideas or new level of awareness that we've discovered. But it requires that we actually try and do it consciously, because we may feel a sudden burst of energy and that need to start making things happen. But it's important that we don't forget what we've learned during the last 3 weeks, and we seek to apply it so we're operating at a new level of truth rather than trying to continue with the old, as it were. On the 7th, we've got the new moon in Sagittarius, as I mentioned. So this is a time an opportunity rather, for us to deepen our connection with the energies of Sagittarius and seek to elevate the function beyond the base level, which is often about trying to satisfy our appetites, trying to have a monopoly over the truth, as it were, which no human being can have, because our minds have inherent limits as to how much information they can contain. So it's important that we always seek the truth, but we don't claim a monopoly over it. We always be open to new insights, open to new ideas. Sagittarius is also looking at how do we engage with other people? Do we have a generosity of spirit? Are we kind? Are we nurturing? Are we encouraging of other people and seeking to help them understand things in a way that will empower them? Or are we motivated by greed? Do we need to try and control things around us? Do we feel like we have to be in control? The philosophy or ideology that we cling to, it's our responsibility to try and propagate it, even to the extent that it can hurt other people. So with Sagittarius, the most important thing is that we always be open to truth and we remain humble at all times and tolerant of other points of view, because at the end of the day, no one person can have all of the truth, and even if someone is saying something that is clearly incorrect, there may still be nuggets of truth in what they're saying, but it's a kernel of truth wrapped up in a load of illusion. So it's be open to the possibility that we don't see things as clearly as we think we do. We don't have all the information, or our belief systems are incomplete, and that we have the courage to humble ourselves and be open to these new insights or new experiences which challenge our basic assumptions of life. On the same day, Mars is going to conjunct Neptune. In some respects, this conjunction is similar to a new moon. It's a new planetary cycle between Mars and Neptune. So this is a conjunction, so the beginning of a new cycle between the two. And like the new moon, this is often a time where it's worth trying to become still and open to new insights. It's in that stillness the truth can present itself to us. Now, Mars is all about action, it's about initiating new things. Neptune is more about the dissolution of the old, it's about the endings, if you like, and the willingness to let go of the old, to close a chapter. And Neptune also deals with things like compassion, empathy, psychic sensitivity, and it's understanding the detachment to some extent is necessary, but we also, to truly see things clearly, we have to be honest with ourselves and clear the illusions from our mind. Now, Mars and Neptune, whilst they're often seen as antagonistic, they can often balance each other out. Neptune brings that compassion, psychic sensitivity to Mars's action. Mars gives us that necessary drive, so we don't just wallow around in escapism. So it's also Neptune's spiritualizing effect can help us transform the desire function of Mars into devotion. So it's allowing all the egoic desires to be dissolved by the influence of Neptune. So we recognize that spiritual need, or that spiritual goal that we truly desire to achieve, and then through that dissolve any desires which will run against it or undermine it, and devote ourselves wholeheartedly to pursuing actions aligned with this new vision, as it were. But for that to happen, we must learn to be still and to go within and to know oneself. To thine own self be true. To understand that our actions have consequences, they ripple out into the collective, and if our actions are based on illusion, escapism, then we harm ourselves through engaging in activities which are about numbing and avoiding facing who we are. Alternatively, we can end up engaging in activities which we don't actually know why we're doing it. We also need to avoid just ending up in non-action, or just being inactive, just giving up and just being as vague or avoiding any responsibility whatsoever. So the balance is all about having that warrior mindset, that detachment to see things clearly, whilst the faith and understanding of being part of the collective from Neptune keeps us compassionate, so we don't become impulsive, we don't swing that sword of Mars in a rash kind of way that can harm other people. It's using it as a sword of truth that cut through illusions, cut through the fears, so we take decisive action. But at the same time, we do not use that sword of action to harm other people. It's just to cut through our own fears, cut through our own inertia, and take the steps, because for anything to change in life, action is required. But it's making sure the action is guided by spiritual understanding and guided by a conscience, compassion, empathy, and understanding of the bigger picture. The following day, on the 8th, Chiron is turning direct. So Chiron is tracked into Pisces, so we're looking at being observed where wounds of disconnection undermine our efforts to achieve goals. Is understanding where do we cut ourselves off from unconditional love, because Chiron in Pisces can lead to that mindset of fear or feeling that we've been abandoned by God or abandoned by the universe or anything like that. The truth is we haven't. We've cut ourselves off from it, usually through pursuing a substitute form of power rather than learning to surrender to the infinite. It's the ego seeks to assert confirm its existence through self-destructive means. Instead, we need to not destroy the ego, but to sublimate it, to allow it to become porous to that unconditional love, that universal consciousness that transforms understanding and helps us to feel that connection with the whole and not just have a mental understanding of it. It's about dissolving those fears of disconnection. It's about dissolving those limiting beliefs, those limiting behaviours, and that seeking of substitute forms of power, or seeking numbness to avoid psychological pain, as it were, and instead learn to love ourselves unconditionally, to face any fears that we're not worthy of love and transform them through self-compassion first of all, because we cannot show compassion to another person, we can't give it to ourselves. We must learn to accept ourselves for who we are, and if we're engaging in something that's destructive, have the courage to acknowledge it but not judge ourselves for it, be compassionate, empathise with why we've been doing it so far, but then seek to change it through allowing unconditional love and seeking of truth to replace numbing and the running away from the love and truth and running away from the light. So it's quite a bit to take on board, but this week is all about change. It's opportunities for new beginnings, but for that to happen, we have to take responsibility for our lives. We have to reflect on our lives to understand who we are. So we can't know what is the right course of action for ourselves if we don't seek to know who we are. So spiritual practice is important, and grounding is very important as well. So whether you do that through exercise, eating earthy foods that are naturally grounding yet energizing, but it's making sure you get adequate rest so that the mind isn't exhausted and we end up relying on things like sugar or alcohol or caffeine to fuel ourselves. It's having that compassionate awareness of our needs and making sure that we take care of ourselves, to love ourselves and appreciate ourselves for who we are, and then radiate those same qualities to other people so that it's life affirming rather than soul destroying, if you like. So we all have a duty of care to ourselves and to other people, but to care for other people properly, we have to take care of ourselves, to make sure that we keep ourselves strong, keep ourselves grounded, and remember to love ourselves at all times, because it's through love and truth that we can transform our minds, to renew it and allow a new way of being to come about, a new way of living that is life affirming, nurtures us at a mind, body, spirit level, and we can then radiate that to other people through seeking to radiate the fruits of the spirit, radiate love to one another, and connect with that higher consciousness within ourselves, because it is all within us. We all have the potential to transform our lives, to take responsibility for who we are, what we're doing in life, and to be a positive example for other people to learn from. But it needs to be done in a way that it's through our embodiment of a principle, not the preaching of it. Because one of the things we need to be mindful of, Sagittarius, is it can get too full of itself and end up preaching. So we need to remain humble, remain true to who we are, and make sure that we demonstrate principles through living them out. We are an embodiment of it, which then shows other people that a new way of doing things is possible, and if we can do it, so can other people. So it's a fair bit to take on board, but the most important takeaway is that we have to know ourselves first before we know what the right action is. So meditation or some form of spiritual practice that allows the mind to become still and open to new insights, new ways of doing things, and the willingness to shed old ideology and instead allow truth to guide us rather than old, often comforting beliefs, but beliefs that limit us. So may this week bring you many blessings. This week we've got mantra meditation, that's on Thursday itself, so that'll be tomorrow, i.e. the 6th of December. So this group is open for anyone to come to. I highly recommend it if you're in the area. It's in Coventry, but you can check out the links in below to see our website and see when our groups are on. And if you're interested, by all means, drop us a message if you want, or come along to the event. So these events help us to connect with our minds, and I can't recommend them highly enough. So it'd be good to see you there. But I hope the next coming week is very illuminating for you, brings you opportunities for new growth, and also allows you to see how you can apply the insights you gained during the Mercury retrograde. So take care and be blessed.